I had my next step, which was to work as a waitress. Downstairs my apartment, a few steps away, there is a very nice Italian restaurant.
I can't imagine Sharon Au serving spaghetti to me or pizza. You know, ding dong pizza, the kind of feeling. Quite a sensitive question. Are you making as much right now as you are in Singapore?
Oh no. I think my pay has been cut by half.
Wow.
Yes.
By half. So do you have to make a lot of adjustments to your lifestyle because of that?
I am a pro at making adjustments. I am the queen of adaptability. Because when I was a celebrity in my 30s, and when I left to pursue a university degree in Tokyo, I suffered a complete 100% pay cut, and I started really from zero. So that time was already a genuine training ground when I went back to a student's life in Japan. So I am very good at just spending within my means.
Yep. So financial planning is definitely very important in this area so that you can pursue what you want to pursue. So probably you would like to maybe advise our audience or the women who is watching right now, what are the kind of financial planning that you have? Yeah, how do you manage your finances then?
I wouldn't say I can give advice, but what worked for me was when I was earning a good salary in Singapore, I did set aside money to invest. I bought apartments and I invested in some commodities. And at that time, it didn't feel like a pressing thing to do. I did it because I was encouraged by some of my friends who have been thriving, and they kept telling me, don't let your money just sit in the bank, do something with it. So you see, so I did it out of maybe being encouraged, and I didn't feel that it was going to save my life much later in my career. So what happened was, then I moved to Paris, and then for 6 months I was jobless. And so for 6 months, that was when I see that, thank goodness, I did allow my money to roll, so much so that I do have some cash flow where I am able to just sit there and do nothing while I was searching for a job. And because you have that kind of a luxury, it also didn't make searching for a job that depressing, because I do have my fair share of rejections. I cannot imagine if I were living from hand to mouth. Each rejection would have been a very powerful blow to my existence. So much so that I might have to make very different decisions from what I did. So I would really encourage, first of all, to save up. So don't splurge. I know we need to sometimes at our lowest points or at our highest points reward ourselves, but do remember to also save, because the savings will allow you to have the opportunity and the choice to make any form of investments which you find comfortable to invest in. Because when we talk about investment, some people think that, you need to have a lot of wealth before you set aside. No, actually I didn't have so much wealth that I can throw away money. But I had good advice, I had good consultants, I had good friends, and I trust all of them. So I was able to make do. But then I must admit that this is again another confession. The money also will run dry. As you said, Paris is a very expensive city. So you also start to see your savings, decrease. So that was a real issue. And if so, I want to share this because I'm not shy. If I can admit that at some point I was quite low and down and out, I hope that this will encourage people who are actually listening to this, that don't give up, so don't be afraid, and don't have knee-jerk reaction. So once you are rejected, or once you see that you are not doing well, some people tend to have a knee-jerk reaction and do the extreme, like stop pursuing their dream, or go back to a very safe way of life. I didn't. I just pursued and I persevered, and then my chairman came along. So people like to say, "Oh, you're so lucky, 你遇到贵人." So 贵人 is a very important term, especially in my industry, and it's true. I'm very lucky I had 贵人. But have you ever wondered why did this 贵人regard me as such a highly competent subordinate? It must be because in my 7 years in MediaCorp, I had proven to be someone who is a go-getter.
I do agree with that.
Work hard, save money, and then pursue your dream.
Yeah, work hard, save money. Yes, I always practice this, and Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad Poor Dad, this book actually says, pay yourself first. It is important. So once we save, and we must know how to grow our money, and that's what Sharon did in investing. And she said she bought like apartments, and maybe she has some form of passive income that's coming in. It could be from rental, it could be your dividends. If you don't know how to invest, you can always find a good financial consultant to advise you, grow your money. And that is where, if really there's time you need to have this money to deplete or to use your savings, okay, this is the time to really dig into it. Yeah, we have that choice to do so. What if you are in Paris, and what if your ex-chairman did not appear? Do you have like plans? What are you going to do?
Yes, I had my next step, which was to work as a waitress in the Italian restaurant, because downstairs my apartment, a few steps away, there is a very nice Italian restaurant, which I've been dining in, very often because it's very nice. But one day I actually thought to myself, I'm going to apply for a job there if I still hadn't gotten any job that accepts me as a candidate. This would be impossible in Singapore. In Singapore, I have too much ego and pride. I think, I'm Sharon Au, I cannot go and look for a job. And it's very embarrassing if I go and apply for a job. Right?
No, I can't imagine Sharon Au serving spaghetti to me, or pizza, ding dong pizza, the kind of feeling. I can't imagine that.
But you see, actually, there is nothing wrong with me, working as a waitress. And actually, you see, imagine one day I really work as a waitress. I serve you. You will be very shocked and surprised, but that's it. You go home, you sleep, you forget about it. It's me with the self. And I will be imagining, people will be talking. Actually, nobody is talking, But so I want to say a lot of our own emotions and sentiments, we self-impose. I think of myself as so important. I think people spend their whole lives talking about me. Yeah, so Pauline, really let our viewers know, don't let our ego and pride get in the way, because most of the time, all these things are unnecessary. We self-impose on ourselves and we think too much. Actually, nobody is.
No, I think those viewers who have seen you from young, in Chinese we say 看着你的戏长大的. That means to say that I can imagine Sharon I would actually thought of, serving in an Italian restaurant as a waitress. Yeah, go to such an extent to actually do that. How resilient you are, even to think and to humble yourself all the way. If really, when I'm at my wit's end, I really just need to survive and become a waitress. Has this got to do with your upbringing? Because I understand that you have a childhood that probably trained your resilience very well. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I really have my childhood to thank. Because I was, I don't want to use that word abandoned, because that sounded really bad. But my parents had to leave me, not by choice, with several relatives. So I moved from one relative's place to another. And so in a way, I didn't have a home to call my own. And every time I moved into a new house, I had to get used to getting to know everyone all over again. So again, And then I have to be in their good books. I cannot offend anyone. If not, I wouldn't have any food to eat. Because everyone, actually, my relatives are already very poor, So I don't know why my parents still throw me with them. So they already have many mouths to feed. And then suddenly I come in and they have to, scoop one more bowl of rice. So it was very tough on my relatives. So from young, I learned how to adapt to suit my environment. I learned the importance of being popular. So I always try and do all the housework so that they would like me enough to keep me for one more year. Or else it will be very tiring for me to keep moving at the end of the year. And it's very disruptive to my well-being too. So from young, I already was mature enough to know that, okay, I better wash all the dishes, wash the clothes, be the best adopted person in the house and don't get into trouble. Also at the same time, be invisible. So don't get in anyone's way. Because there are many people in the house, you just try not to block anyone in the small HDB flat. Many people tend to blame their childhood. Oh, my parents did this. Oh my God, I'm so poor thing. So that's why I'm like that. I really feel that we should stop blaming our past. In fact, we should thank our past for making us who we are. And it's up to you actually to break out of that kind of poverty or that situation. So that's why I say I'm a queen of adaptability. And some people say I'm a hypocrite or I'm a very fake. But I think I got that also from adapting to all the needs and the different personalities of the different relatives I stay with.
Of course, it's survival.
So I really live like the Romans do. Okay, when you're in Rome, you live like the Romans.
So are you happy
survival
right now?
skills. You're right.
Yeah, it's survival skills. Are you happy right now with your financial investing job? I know you are an investing director with a PE firm, private equity firm. So are you
Yes.
happy? Do you think it's your calling?
I don't think it's calling because I'm still facing tough challenges at work. I'm still learning from my colleagues. I'm at a situation where people are just too busy to teach you. So people, when they look at my Instagram, they see a very positive and bright, successful side. But that's because I do not whine and complain about the difficulties I face at work. So I just want to, spread positivity and let people know that no matter what kind of challenges you face, if you don't give up on yourself, then there is a chance that tomorrow will be better.
But over in Paris, like you are alone, I mean, I believe in a new job, a new area. You are definitely faced with like challenges. Well, at least in Singapore, if 我们给人家欺负 that means if somebody was so-called bully us, in Singapore we say we can go home and then we can just cry and there'll be loved ones with us. How do you cope with that when you are in France, when you're just by yourself?
Actually, because I've always been independent. So, even in Singapore, even when I was bullied, I don't go home and cry to my mom, I still go home and cry in my own bathroom while showering so that nobody sees. It's the same thing. So it's got to do with personality. So it doesn't matter which city you're at. The way I deal with bully at work or the way I deal with horrible and devastating news is truly to process it and giving myself the luxury of getting it over with time. I think this is the time where willpower will step in. So for me, I strongly believe in my life mantra, which is when you are at the lowest point of the abyss, there's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, that's true. Since we're at the lowest point, what's there to lose, man? Right, just do it.
Yeah.
And the only way is actually whatever comes will definitely be up. So now that you have your very glamorous life of that, I think 10, 20 years in MediaCorp as the A-list host, and now in France, right, doing investing. So my next question is, what's next for you, Sharon?
My future shines bright like a beacon of light, like the Eiffel Tower. This is what I would love to imagine for myself. No, but seriously, the future has so much potential untapped, so many possibilities. Every corner I turn, a surprise waits for me. So I'm looking forward to what life has in store for me, actually. And for myself, I'm not planning anything grand or exciting, because I've actually stopped the act of planning long term ever since 2 years ago when COVID first struck. Because I started to think that life is so ephemeral now that whatever you plan, we might not live that long to get there. So I am really now more for living for the moment, embracing the power of now, and making the kind of changes that you want to your life now.
Now is the power.
But I can say that with so much, grandeur and confidence. But the truth is, because what I really envisioned for myself when I was growing up was I would be married with children and then grandchildren and then, happily ever after. So now I'm in my 40s. I realize I'm not going to have children. And that, to me, I think is still going to be the biggest regret of my life, because of the kind of creation and love that you will be able to share with your own family. I don't think I have that destiny for that. So that is why I'm able to make so many impulsive moves. Actually, frankly speaking, if at that time when I quit from my last job, if I had children, there's no way I could have packed and just impulsively run to another country and, walk along the river and waste away 6 months of savings. It's impossible. In fact, my life would have another type of meaning that maybe I wouldn't quit. Life would have been so different with children. So this is one thing I empathize, because I receive many, many letters from women like me who kept telling me they want to break free, but they cannot because of commitments at home, regardless of commitment with their parents or commitment with their own family. And I truly feel for it. And I've always told them that, because they always say, oh, Sharon, I want to be as brave and courageous as you. So I told them instead, I said, no, it's the other way around. I want to be as brave and courageous as you, to raise a family, to be the woman of our times, and still to be able to want to take care of yourself. The reason why I can fly all over the place is because it's true. I have no emotional things to weigh me down. So if I think about my future that I envision is I will never be able to achieve, maybe in my next life. So I hope to be able to be in a position where I can be of service to other people who are maybe in my shoes, who are thinking of breaking free, or who are just like me in the midlife crisis. And I hope I can be that form of energy and positive influence.
Last question for you, Sharon, just like our theme, the WOW series. What is wealth to you?
Wealth is the freedom to fully experience life the way you want it to be.
Well said. Fully experience life the way you want it to be, and most importantly, live in the present. Live for the moment. So thank you very much, Sharon, for joining us and being so inspirational, all right, and having the courage to let people, let's say, having midlife crisis, to know that we can always start afresh. Audience, thank you very much for joining us for today's session. Yeah, thank you for joining the WOW series, The Women of Wealth. I'm gonna see you in the next episode. See ya!
A ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are for. So that's why I've always ventured out of my comfort zone to see the world out there, because I believe I'm made for bigger things. I would suggest for wealth building, although I'm not a perfect example to be able to teach, but all I know is it's very important to live within my means. So live within your means. And when I do that, it means you spend within your means. It also means you invest within your means. My number one golden rule is never borrow. So never borrow to purchase, never borrow to invest. Be very aware of your own financial restrictions.